members of the LDC for taking time from your schedule for this special meeting. And we have representatives, officers of the company. We have Don DeVito, who is the CEO of Hirsch Helmets. We also have Aaron Linz, who is the CFO, and Jeff Killian, who is part of the advisory group to Hirsch Helmets, Kirsch Helmets in our area today. And just a very quick overview. Don and one of the co-founder came to EDC a few years ago and talked about research and development in creating a more protective helmet, particularly for motorcycling at that point. And at that point, we were not in a position to loan money for research and development. And so therefore, they went and through their own hard work and diligence, reached out and were able to provide funding for their research and development. But Don has always indicated a commitment to be in Warren County for manufacturing, which is important and key, so that they came and stopped by last year and we talked again. And then several weeks ago, they came in and discussed this request for a loan, which essentially will allow them to really go from a research and development phase in implementing to actually manufacturing of helmets. So this is something that is in our wheelhouse for having manufacturing, and certainly a new innovative company, again, fits our design of attracting more types of businesses that move from a startup into implementation. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to introduce Don and Aaron and Jeff, Mr. Chair, if that's permissible to go forth with Mr. DeVito to give an overview of the company.
That sounds great, Ed. Why don't we forge on forward?
Great. Thank you, everyone. This is, I'm Donnie DeVito. One of the co-founders. Jason Kirschon is actually a resident of, been a lifelong resident of Lake George. He created this technology over the last 10 years. I met him about 3 years ago. And my role has been to move this technology from the innovation, which he patented, into an industrialized product. And that's what we initially talked to Ed about in our plan. Over the past 3 years, Kirsch's technology and our patent portfolio have been developed with great work and effort on everyone's part to be able to get it ready to be commercially deployed. We, through a solid base of shareholders, raised and through convertible debt and equity investment about $2 million to fund our efforts. It's been planned. We had built-in planned unprofitability during this early stage, which is typical of a technology startup. And now we've moved from the innovation into an industrialized product, and we're ready to launch the technology. We made a decision to move our key manufacturing piece to Warren County last year. We invested quite a bit of money. We have boots on the ground. We have steel in the ground, and we have built supporting relationships with suppliers in Warren County. And we happen to be the only helmet that's made, motorcycle helmet that's made entirely in the United States. In fact, all of our parts come from places in New York and in the Northeast. And we see ourselves being a new leader in the industry, and we plan to do our research and development and our manufacturing and final assembly right there in Warren County on Big Boom Road in Queensbury. I see we have someone that just joined us.
Yes, another supervisor, Claudia Bramer from the 3rd Ward.
Nice. Nice to meet you. So that's where we're at. We came recently back to Ed to be able to talk more about where we are at and making the transition from research and development to production. We need some machines and some manpower, and we asked them to help support our investment. Kirsch will, over the next year, spend about $1 million again before the end of this year. We'll spend that in the county alone, and as part of that, about 20% of what we anticipate spending is what we're asking for the county to support us through this loan. We're very confident that our ability to pay back the loan, our ability to use the money wisely and execute our business plan is very good. We have an experienced team of operators who have run companies, consumer products and industrial product companies before. We have an outstanding, deeply experienced board of advisors who have within that group also manufacturing, engineering, materials, consumer products experience. There are many individuals that have owned their own startups and have taken companies public. We have one of them here with us, Jeff Colleen, who is a serial entrepreneur, is probably very well known to your board. I'll have him speak in a minute. And also we have Aaron Lines, who's also part of our company as our CFO. Again, another deeply experienced person in working on innovation and transition of innovation of technologies into industrialization of technologies and building facilities around the globe. So I'm very confident that what we put forward to your subcommittee and to you as a board is an excellent product, an excellent plan, and one that we are sure that we can execute well. The last thing I'll say is, I know it's on people's minds, is that currently, we're all affected by the COVID pandemic. We see many advantages in what COVID does for our business, especially being the only entirely made American helmet, entirely made in the United States. All helmets are made in Asia and in Europe outside of the United States. And with that manufacturing supply chain being very disrupted from the pandemic, it creates an incredible opportunity for us and at a great time for us to launch our product. So I'm prepared to answer whatever questions, Ed, that the board has, but also, allow my people to speak. I'd like them to hear from the two gentlemen I have on the call.
I think, why don't we just have you introduce Aaron, and then Aaron can introduce, or you can introduce Jeff, so that we have the full presentation up front, and then see if there's any questions or comments from the board, from our LDC board.
Okay.
Great. Well, Ed, thanks. You might need to mute that, Donnie. Sorry, we're just distancing here in the conference room. So pleasure to meet you all. My background has been with General Electric for 30 years as a CFO and finance leader, mostly in their industrial businesses. I spent the early part of my career in the plastics business, actually, which is very interesting, being now on the side of using some of those plastics. And through that, I learned a lot about scaling up manufacturing. I worked on the scale up of a $500 million plant in Spain for polycarbonate, as well as operations in China, the US, and India. And then as I moved through my career, a lot of time just working in industrial businesses, watching how technology gets injected into product and the importance of the rigor of manufacturing and also the discipline in capital allocation. And for the last 7 years, I had the privilege of being at GE's Global Research Center, headquartered in Niskayuna. And while I was there, I actually helped build and set up 5 research centers around the world, one in Brazil, one in Germany, one in India, a couple in the US for software, for unconventional oil. So a lot of capital deployment and just the details around that and how important it is to have good leadership, a lot of discipline around what your costs are, what they could be, and also some agility. And I think the COVID pandemic is a good example of how you have to have a robust business model and you have to understand what happens and what are your other alternatives and your options, because responding is what's important. It's almost impossible to predict. And I think that falls out financially in understanding what are your cash flows from your customers, how are you deploying capital, and how much of that's being put to work to generate more revenue. So I've seen a lot of new technology be developed at General Electric. Some of that makes it into product, not all of it. And even when it gets into product, sometimes the market shifts like it has right now in the airline industry, and you need to respond. So just the detail, the attention, and just having a good team is probably your best weapon to respond to that. And one of the things I like about Kirsch and the technology is it's a great example of some known technologies, silicone, polycarbonate, being put together in a novel way to solve a real problem. And therefore, there's margin there to be had. You can serve your customer. And then you can see how that could spread to other things. And I think a lot of you are familiar with the concept of Intel Inside or Gore-Tex. You can do a lot of different things with a great technology across multiple spaces. I actually think this helmet technology can do that. And it's one of the things that inspires me working with Jason and Donnie. And I think as we talk between ourselves with Jeff and some others who have industry experience in other places, this is the hallmark of a great business. I've also seen that, there are stages going from R&D to manufacturing to commercialization. You need to navigate through that, and you need strong partners. So I'm really happy to see that we get a chance to work with Warren County, as well as some other investors, to bring this to the next stage. So I don't know if you have questions for me. Happy to answer any questions in detail about financials, forecasts, et cetera. Otherwise, I turn it over to Jeff Colleen, who's also with us.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Good morning, everybody. I think I know many of you. I live
Jeff,
in
I'm not sure if you're on mute.
Am I mute?
No, he's good. No, he's not.
No.
There we go. Am I in?
Yes.
My voice on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. I think I know several of you through, I guess, work at Lake George. I actually am a resident of Lake George and have been a Warren County resident, I don't know, for 15 years now. I'm an investor in the company, one of 50 investors, as well as an advisor. And my professional background, I don't know if you are aware of it, I've been the CEO of 4 technology-based startup companies over the past 25 years. And I guess I look at Kirsch through that lens, similar to Aaron. The startup cycle and the innovation cycle of a high potential opportunity is really important to scrub and understand. And I look for a separation of what are interesting ideas and interesting product concepts from great business ideas and new companies. And I think in this case, Kirsch represents both of those. It's a market innovation idea backed by intellectual property, which is really important. And it's got a well staged company launch plan. I decided to invest in it and then joined Donnie as an advisor because it met a series of criteria that I think are important, both for any company, but also for anyone choosing to help be part of the financing process. And relative to Kirsch, it checks off the boxes that I think will guarantee success. The first is, as you've seen, I think in some of the materials, a huge unmet global need for protective headgear in high performance activity markets like motorcycles, but also moving into other vertical markets. And literally most important to me is, does an idea like this have patent protection. And Donnie and the team have built a portfolio of patents across the globe, both design patents, utility patents, production patents. And I think in any technology company, the presence or lack of intellectual property is a huge gating factor, and Kirsch has that. That is an asset in and of itself as we look down the road. The other thing I look for is the idea a one-trick pony or a stable of stallions? And in that regard, the business plan starts with the motorcycle market, very innovative helmet design, but it goes into 26 other vertical markets that include things like construction helmets, which, if you think about it, is 100-year-old technology, hasn't changed. It's plastic and foam, and that's a multi-million dollar rollout market. And we're in strategic discussions with construction helmet makers. But if you look across the portfolio of sports helmets, and then construction and safety helmets, and then military and police and EMS helmets, it is a global market that this patented technology can address. The other thing I look for, and Kirsch kind of checks this off nicely, is proof of concept in an initial launch vertical. And the company is ready to go in the motorcycle market. It's got a dealer network, it's got an e-commerce strategy, it's got a club strategy, and it's primed to go. And there's orders in the pipe that this loan will help us trigger. And I think lastly, and Donnie mentioned it, the operating team has been assembled from literally world-class operators in the motorcycle markets. Hall of Famers, the former VP of strategy for Harley Davidson is now Kirsch's VP of strategy. So the team knows the dealer network, knows the clubs, knows the markets, which is really important. And it's primed to go on that. So for me, it has checked all these boxes, or I wouldn't have gotten involved. And it's a high-tech, clean manufacturing company that is, I think, perfect for Warren County, both as a source of new employment, but I think is something that we all can be proud of as this company, scales out globally. One last comment, and Donnie referenced it because it is a good question, and some of the bankers on Ed's team asked us this question: does COVID get in the way? And it does to a degree, and we've adjusted our sales forecast for that, and that's all in the financial package. But it actually, and it's a sad opportunity, but it's an opportunity. As Donnie said, the supply chains around the world have been crushed because of this, because most of those come out of Asia, and dealer inventory is at an all-time low. So as all the states open up, as they're opening up now, this is motorcycling is an activity that can be done with social distancing built in organically. And the pent-up demand, not for new bikes, but for new accessory and product, is something that we're going to be able to capitalize on as we roll out over the next couple months. So that's just my perspective. Happy to answer any questions later in the meeting here. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Anytime I can hear from a serial entrepreneur, to quote a famous CFO, I'm happy. Ms. Bramer, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman. I just wanted to apologize for dropping in the middle of your presentation. And I appreciate all the info and the good background that you've already done, the research that you've already done, Jeff. Thanks for sharing that with the committee. I'm not on the LDC, but I wanted to sit in and hear what was going on. And I apologize too for my ignorance about where is the facility in Warren County, or where?
It's off Big Boom Road. So if you were to go to exit,
I know where Big Boom is. Yeah, our where we play rugby is at the end of that road.
Right. So it is one of those metal warehouses on Big Boom Road where they are housed and headquartered.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Claudia. One of the before I entertain Brad, I think spoke to a very good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about Kirsch, and his first question to me was, and pretty good question actually, based on the discussions we've had here. And he said, "What kind of patent protection do these folks have?" So you guys, I think, have the homework to prove that you've done your job in this area. Supervisor McGowan, did you have something to say?
If you'd like, before the supervisor speaks, let me just round out that or expand on that. We have 7 issued patents, which as Jeff said, are utility patents, design patents, and manufacturing process patents. We've also recently just filed 2 continuation patents to extend our claims on the manufacturing process. We have 6 provisional patents, which we filed and expect to get approval on issued this year. And we filed internationally through the patent treaties for another 56 countries. So we have a very extensive and aggressive strategy. In fact, we're using Tech Valley Patents, which is right there in Glens Falls. We've been using them since the inception of the company, and they began with our very first patent, and we expect to continue to do this work aggressively over the years. So thank you. I'll defer now to Supervisor McGowan.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Donnie, Jeff, and Aaron, I want to thank you. This is quite a nice presentation you've put together. The extensive work that you have done getting this far is just, it's amazing, because I've been following this ever since I saw the first. I'm a motorcycle rider myself, and preferring going to New Hampshire not wearing a helmet, this is the closest thing to having the lightness and the safety that you need instead of getting a non-DOT, we used to call skull cap. I think they're an awesome looking helmet. And like I said, I have followed this and it's great. You've hooked up with a great team and a business with a Sealy machine shop, because those guys, what a set of minds that are over there. And, Chuck Sealy is a good friend of mine, and Charlie, I've been hanging around since they were a little tiny shop over here at Glenwood, and bringing in Mac the Knife there to do designs. Let me tell you, you really, your business plan, the people that you put in this, and Jeff, thank you for really the research of getting into this. When I read it that it was coming to the board, I was excited. So I'm really happy for you, for all of you. And it's really, to me, not because it's right in my backyard, but it is an essential thing that we need. And, people want to protect themselves, but on the other hand too, I have an older Harley helmet that is outdated, and it probably hit the ground anyways. It would probably, splinter up. But Sunday, when it was nice and hot, it's so nice to have that air around you. So thank you for all. I mean, like I said, I'm just so excited and looking forward to working with you. That's not my vote.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Donnie, Aaron, and Jeff. Thank you for presenting to us here. On the CHM1, it's just from doing a little research here and seeing even the impact study on the worldwide business with Miss Ireland and such. It looks like a pretty impressive helmet and going to meet a good need. And also, having your position out at Sturgis, I'm sure helps pretty well for 3 years being the official helmet there. Are you now producing and selling these helmets?
We're Supervisor, we are making helmets now at the facility. The helmets that we're making, we're doing final testing, and we'll begin delivering helmets to our independent agents across the country, and from there to the dealers this month. As soon as we finish our final, we have certified the helmet internally for DOT, but we've also chosen to do an external third-party certification prior to shipping to consumers. So by the end of June, we'll be shipping to customers. So we're right here, right now, ready to launch. We think by our plan, we'll deliver over several thousand helmets to customers in the next few months. What is important for us is there's some critical pieces of machinery that we would like to have that we would use for continued research and development of our next helmet, but also to do quality assurance testing in-house. It saves us time and saves us money, and it makes us more efficient as we move through the production process and also maintain our quality control and assurance programs. In addition, we need to hire the manpower to do final assembly. We moved our final assembly into Building 2 at the facility, which we expanded our footprint. So we have our clean room, which is where we do our manufacturing part, and for the main component, the fluid displacement liner. And then outside of that, we just expanded our footprint so that we can do our final assembly. That is where we'll be hiring veterans, disabled veterans, and people with disabilities to do that final assembly. We'll be doing that all right there on Big Boom Road. So the money that we're asking for in part is to pay for some of the equipment, and then secondarily, but just as importantly, to hire the people, the manpower that we need to be able to build for our launch.
And in your business plan, that expansion was, you were looking for $300,000 altogether?
Yes, that was what our expectation was. I can let Aaron expand on that, but that was part of the plan. There's different components for different pieces of it, but that's the baseline of what we were looking to do.
Yeah, and I think if there's a specific question, we can talk through it, but really what we were looking at is adding equipment for testing, which is incredibly important. And we've seen, just like the co-location with Sealy, that ability to do testing in-house and iterate very quickly on changes in design is an incredible superpower for Jason and the team. So we want to make sure that we have that in-house testing equipment that's as good or better than any external lab that we would be sent to have our product tested before claims arise. The other thing is additional equipment like manufacturing robots. So right now we use a very sophisticated robotic technique to fill and produce the liner. It's relatively simple in terms of how robotics work. It's not a chip fab, but it's very precise and very helpful. We need to add another robot in, and they're quite expensive. So we're planning to do that as part of this expansion as we see volume develop. That also gives us the ability to do research on our next helmet at the same time as we're fulfilling expected market demand. And so that alone drives a couple $100,000 worth of capital investment, in addition to the needs to buy and pay, hire labor, as well as buy raw materials. So we have very good margins for the helmet, around 45% gross margin, but that means that there's about 50% is raw material and labor that we need for every helmet, and that's what we're looking to find.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ed, some of the information I believe you sent me, I think you talked in terms of number of employees. The first year, I think 7 full-time equivalents, the second year 14, and third year, I think you said 16 or 17. Was that kind of, in general terms, what the anticipation would be?
Yeah, that is what we anticipate for the facility in Queensbury. Sorry, I have a little echo. I don't know if you're
Muted.
we're getting a little bit of an echo. Apologies for that. So yes, and there will be some seasonality, of course, as we go through the year. We expect to run one and a half, 2 shifts as we go through the peak periods of the year. But on a full-time equivalent basis, it's 7 in the first year and, as you mentioned, 14 in the second.
Thank you very much. Ed, do you have anything further to add, or does any supervisor, Brad, did you have something, or is your hand not up? No, thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the application itself and what the board is considering today is a loan of $167,513 for the LDC to consider today. That would be over a period of 4 years. The purpose today, what would transpire today, is the consideration of approval of this, which would then be subject to reduction into a loan agreement and note that Assistant County Attorney Bob Terwilliger will be preparing after that, and then there'll be a closing to move forward in there. The kind of the terms of what we had talked about also include a term in this of a period of 4 years and at a 4.5% interest with interest-only payments for a period of 6 months at this time. And also there will be, as normally we require, certain reporting requirements in other items that will be incorporated into the loan agreement itself. But though that is the overview in terms of the amount of the loan, the rate of interest, and the term at this particular point, and the employment factor. This is very important for obviously the company. This is essentially one of the very first times that the LDC is assisting a company that has been moving from a research development startup into actual implementation. And this has been a vacuum in our region for a variety of reasons. One of it is, but for the LDC loan fund, traditional financing is not always available for this transition from startup and research development into the first few phases. And so that this LDC fund is really one of the entities that can make this happen for this business and other startups that are looking at Warren County at this particular time. And I think that Kirsch Helmets has set the bar very high in terms of the criteria by putting together the management team that they have, by putting together the advisory team that they have, and also the amount of vendors that they are reaching out to within our region. Right in Warren County, the patent attorney is right from Glens Falls. Also, they're working on some others, vendors in our particular area. And those are the indirect results that happen with this company. And finally, the employment factor of an increase of 13, 14 new manufacturing jobs in the Queensbury, Glens Falls, Warren County region.
Thank you very much, Ed. Matt, did I see did you, Supervisor Simpson has moved to approve the application, and seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Sorry, Brad, Merlino had his hand up first, okay? If the, all those in favor, go ahead, Brad. Did you want to say something?
Excuse me, didn't mean to. You guys don't need a little more, do you? What I like about it is you guys have skin in the game too. I really do think this is really something that's going to come together. Like I said, I've been following it, and I'm excited And to be honest, I was actually looking into purchasing one like 2 weeks ago. I was looking in, preparing myself for the up and coming season. But and like I need another helmet. I have 8, but I just haven't found the one I really like yet. I think I like it, but I don't after a while. So I'm excited.
I think the fact that we have an American-made product fully manufactured in this country, I think is an exciting development. Anything else from
Supervisor McGowan, I know you were sort of joking, but one of the things in Ed's building upstairs is the veterans program that we've been working with, and we are prepared to hire people there. But one thing that Ed and I spoke about briefly early on was our need to do education, workforce development and education. We had received some workforce development funds from WDI down in Albany, and their team had come up to our facility, but a continuation of that would help us getting additional funds for education and training for our staff as they come in and work in this environment, because we need to cross-train people. They have various degrees and various aptitudes that we want to work with them. A lot of these are veterans that we would anticipate are coming back into the workforce, sort of boots back to work. And so they'll need training as well. But what's interesting about the kind of training that we can produce, and that's documentation, but also video training, it's the same stuff that we need to use to educate the dealers and the apparel managers across the country to understand how Kirsch makes its products and how different this innovation is. That adds to the understanding of our product and improves our ability to penetrate. So this type of training and videos that we would build would be able to be dual purposed and add to that. In fact, it also, in a different format, can be used to educate the customer on what we're doing about this innovative helmet, because this is something that they've never seen before but need to understand. Ultimately, it's people like Supervisor McGowan who are riding and have been using compression foam technology all these years and need to understand what the differences are and why we feel ours offers improved performance and more safety. So it's all helpful. So although you made the joke half-heartedly, it is true. We will need more funds to be able to educate our workforce, and if it's possible to do that, we would really like that, because it's the time to do that is now, because our workforce, after this loan gets approved, we're going to be hiring people in the next week or so, and they'll start working to make helmets, because the helmets we plan to ship before the end of June.
Thank you, Don. There's a motion on the floor and a second?
Yeah, I just wanted.
Go ahead, Matt or Gene. Go ahead, Gene.
I just wanted to thank Aaron, Donnie, and Jeff for bringing this to us, and it's really exciting to hear about your business plans and your future, and just thank you for being here in Warren County, investing in our community. And I'm Gene Merlino, supervisor. This is very impressive. I've been on this board for quite a few years. This is one of the best knowledge that we received before we gave out any money. I have a personal, I hate to bring it up, but I'm looking for the veterans helmets, and I'm looking for football players helmets. I have a son that played football for Army. I'm proud of it. But unfortunately, he has that brain injury. He's 55. So, he started playing when he was a little midget, and through high school and through college. So this is a great thing for the future of the generations to come that want to keep that sport going as football, my concern. I want to thank you. I'm looking forward for the tour. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Supervisor Bramer, Supervisor Leggett, and then Wayne Lamont.
Thanks, Chairman. I just wanted to drop a little bug in your ear. It's not funds, but SUNY Adirondack and Local 773 have a workforce development program. So maybe that's something that you could, yeah, okay, you know about it, good.
Yes.
Something that
Sure.
could be used as a model for improving your workforce and their training and understanding of the technology that you need to use.
For our operations down here in Schenectady, we're working with the local community college here for that same reason, and we plan to work with ACC in the north as we develop the workforce there. There are a lot of positions where what we anticipate is bringing in interns and then having them learn the process, and then sort of they get a free look and understanding, and then they have an opportunity to continue on. As a matter of fact, three of members of our current team were all interns through their universities and schools before they came to be full-time employees. So our plan is to do that, and then hopefully, if they want us and we want them, we'll bring these people into our workforce.
Thank you,
That's
Don.
great, yeah.
Thank you, Claudia. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Ed about the security for this loan.
The security for this loan are personal guarantees. There will also be liens on all the business assets as well as the amount of our lien will be the shareholders, owner shareholders' stock will be subordinate to the lien of the LDC loan for the amount that is outstanding going forward with this as well. So those are the security amounts that are dealt out in a number of ways, as well as we will be receiving regular financial reports on a regular basis from Kirsch Elements.
Thank you.
Wayne Lamont.
Hi, I haven't seen the business proposal. It all sounds good. Like Brad, I'm a writer of, well, I'm dating myself, but 51 plus years. What I'm curious about in your marketing plan, is there a projection or thoughts of branding taking the label onto corporate labels, or is it just going to remain a brand in and of itself?
Well, ours is so unique, our technology. We feel that, and it's the belief, our belief and that of the experts that we work with, that Kirsch brand will carry itself in the marketplace. We've spent over the last several years quite a bit on the brand to be able to develop it. It's the impact technologies inside that fluid displacement liner that really becomes the ingredient. As Aaron pointed out, it's much like Gore-Tex and Intel and the Pentium chip inside that we're going for. We really don't expect to do distribution in the motorcycle business through any other surrogate. Our plan is to just beat them on the field. As far as the other industries, when it comes to sports and athletics or safety, it is our plan to commercialize that technology through partners and developing those business relationships where we would license the technology, and Kirsch would be the sole manufacturer of the liner itself, but then work with them to on directed application of the innovation into the helmets to be able to upgrade and update those helmets like construction. It's a $3.5 billion market. We're not going to go after that by ourselves. But as was mentioned earlier, we have several partners right now that are major global players in the construction helmet, safety helmet business that we're discussing innovation. We have a bicycle company, one of the leading companies on the planet, that came to us and asked us to work to develop a new interior for their helmets to be able to innovate and use our liner in their new line of helmets. So we're going to go that route in licensing. So what you're seeing here is the inaugural helmet is the fact it's a proof of concept that the liner can be made into a helmet completely and sold to customers. And we want to do that because it also helps us when we're across the table from somebody and we know exactly what it takes to build and innovate and to design a complete helmet. So we know how we can help them as they work with our technology, which is going to be new to everyone who sees it.
Thank you, Don. I want to thank Don, Aaron, and Jeff for your participation this morning. Ed, do you think we've pretty much covered it?
If there's any other questions or comments, I believe there is a motion on the floor.
There is. Why don't we get that done? That may be important also. All those in
I
favor?
was going to jump in there.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Claudia, are we all set?
If I may say one other thing, Chairman.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I see on your website that you had set up a COVID response there with $20 from each sales going to help out. And I find that to be pretty impressive of your social responsibility as a business. So very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure doing it.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much, and you guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, supervisors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. Thank you.
Ed, further items on the agenda is going forward.
Yes, we have one of the items that we had, our second item on is really our rapid response package that was approved earlier in May to go forward with this. And one of the things that we were able to do is that we initially received approximately 14 to 15 applications. And one of our first inquiries with the individuals was whether or not they had applied for either the disaster loan fund or the payroll protection plan through SBA. And as a result of that, right now, we've a total of 5 applications that we had received have been converted into payroll protection plans, which afforded them a little bit more flexibility through SBA. And so we were delighted to be able to be helpful as a conduit to work with them. Some of the individuals didn't think that they were going to be eligible. Others did not have a regular banking relationship. And one was with a credit union, which was not participating in this. So as a result of the publicity that we received, the people did apply for an application. But again, through their willingness to do more exploring and working on it, we were able to have those applications and applicants receive funding. 2 have actually received funds, and others have their number and are in the process of getting that. And that could not have been possible without the support of our local banks of Glens Falls National, NBT, Adirondack Trust, and Berkshire, to name 4 right off the bat there, which we reached out to. All were able to take care of our request for consideration of these payroll protection plans. So that's a positive note going forward. The current time, there are 3 applications that were reviewed that deal with essentially a mixture of assistance for working capital, for some payroll, for rent, for inventory. At this point, Mr. Chair, I would ask that if it's necessary to required or desired by any board member to go into executive session to discuss the financial worthiness credit of any of those applications that are in front of us, this would be the appropriate time to do this.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion by Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive session.
It will take a moment to do.
It'll take a moment to kind of get the system functioning.
Mhm.
You're back.
Testing.
Waiting
One,
for
two,
Ed.
testing. You with us, Claudia?
Yeah. Yeah,
I made it back over, yay!
Hey, welcome aboard.
we're still waiting for Ed. He should get a message that he has to rejoin, that he has to leave his breakout room.
I hit the wrong X.
Thank you, Ed. We are out of executive session. We have two items that are pending here. One is a loan in the amount of $12,500 for Mr. Collins, and it relates to his Celtic T-shirt business. So can I get a motion to approve Mr. Collins? Anyone? Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matters carried. Our second item is for dog products, dog cabin, Lake George, New York, for $12,500 to enable her to continue in a positive fashion and with her business. Can I get a motion to approve the dog products organization? We get a motion to get that on the floor. We have Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. All those in favor?
Aye.
They're both carried. You have anything else, Ed? Anyone else?
No, that is all that we have today. So what I will do is gather more data and get the information and the details on the redemption revenue stream, how that works in a little bit more detail.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck on that.
Put that in the packet and get that out to the board members next week sometime, and then get some comments and then decide how we want to proceed. And if the consensus is to have further discussions, and perhaps if we wanted to have Joe on the Zoom, we could do that as well. But perhaps the information may be enough to make a determination one way or another relative to that.
Thank you very much. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ed.
you. Thank you, members.